When I was 16, my mom kicked me out so she could focus on raising her new kids. Now that I've built a successful life and made good money, she's suddenly expecting me to pay for their college. But everything changed the day she showed up on my porch. I'm 33 now, working in upper management at the same company I joined right after college. I've put in the hours, climbed the ladder, and earned every bit of where I am today. Still, a part of me sometimes wonders what life might have looked like if my mom had made better choices along the way. She had me young, just 20 years old. My biological father? He was never in the picture. Truth is, I barely know anything about him. From what she told me years later, she gave him the chance to stay, but he took off without a second thought. No child support, no fights, he just vanished. Back then, we lived in this cramped little apartment above my grandparents' garage. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was home. My grandparents were the real backbone during that time. They helped raise me while my mom went back to school and worked on getting her physical therapy degree. She balanced classes, a job, and being a mom all on her own. I'll give her that, she didn't just sit around feeling sorry for herself. She worked hard, especially for a single mom. Looking back, those early years weren't bad. We didn't have much, but I didn't really notice it at the time. I spent most of my days with my grandparents while she worked or studied. My grandpa loved having me around. Honestly, during those years, he probably did more parenting than anyone else. Even with her busy schedule, my mom still made an effort when she could. She'd read to me at bedtime, take me to the park, that kind of thing. Things started to shift when I was around 10. That's when she met Jake at her job. At first, he seemed like a decent guy, steady job, polite, kind of normal. I remember her saying he wasn't anything like the guys she used to date. They were together for a couple of years, then got married when I was about 11. Jake wasn't a jerk or anything, but he wasn't warm either. He was always civil, just distant. He never treated me badly, but he never really tried to bond with me either. It felt like he saw me as part of the background, like I was just there, nothing more. In the beginning, not much changed. I was still living with my mom, and now Jake was in the mix too. It was okay. Not amazing, but not awful either. Then little by little, things started shifting. My mom's attention turned more toward Jake and the life they were building together. Dinner conversations became quieter, less about me, more about them. I remember trying to chime in, only to be brushed off like I didn't matter. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured she was caught up in her new marriage, trying to make it work. But over time, it became obvious, I was slowly being pushed to the sidelines. I started trying harder to get noticed. I brought home good grades, kept up with chores, helped wherever I could, anything to prove I still mattered. Then when I was 12, she got pregnant, with twins. Everyone was excited. So was I, at first. I thought I'd get to be the cool older brother, helping out with the babies, teaching them stuff, being part of this new chapter. I even started babysitting for neighbors to get some practice. But the farther along her pregnancy got, the more distant she became. Suddenly, everything revolved around the twins. I kept thinking it was just a phase, that things would go back to normal once they were born. But when they arrived, it was like I disappeared. And I get it, newborns take a lot of energy and attention. I wasn't expecting things to stay the same, but this was different. It wasn't just that she was busy or tired. It felt like she didn't even see me anymore. Family dinners. They stopped being a thing. She used to care about those, used to plan them so we could have time together. Now, nothing. And it wasn't just dinners. All the little things that used to make me feel close to her faded too. Talking about our day, watching shows together, laughing at inside jokes, gone. What hurt most was that I kept trying. Even when it was clear I didn't fit into the new family picture anymore, I still tried. I stayed focused in school, helped out, did what I could to be useful. But nothing I did made a difference. I just wasn't part of the priority list anymore. By the time I hit 16, things came to a head. One night, my mom and Jake called me into the living room, said they needed to have a serious talk. I knew it wasn't going to be good, I could feel it in the air. They sat me down and laid it all out. Money was tight, they said. The twins' needs were growing, and they just couldn't support everyone under one roof. Jake did most of the talking, rattling off numbers like I was supposed to understand or sympathize. Then my mom looked at me and said something I'll never forget: they deserve more. No, we'll figure it out. No, we're in this together. Just a cold dismissal. At that point, I didn't argue. What would have been the point? I went to my room, packed a small bag, just some clothes and a few personal things, and walked out the front door. I didn't look back. I headed straight to my grandparents' house. They didn't even hesitate. My grandpa was pacing back and forth, mumbling how he couldn't believe his daughter had done this. My grandma just held me and wouldn't let go. My grandparents wanted to confront my mom after what she did, but at the same time, they didn't want to completely cut her off. Mostly because of the twins. And honestly, I understood. Those kids weren't to blame. They didn't ask to be born into this mess, and they sure didn't ask to become the center of her universe at the cost of losing me. Yeah, I was angry, furious even, but not at them. They were just caught in the middle. That night marked a real shift in my life. It was the moment I fully understood I couldn't depend on my mom anymore. At just 16, I wasn't some kid navigating high school drama, I was out on my own, for real. It scared the hell out of me, but there wasn't any other option. I had to take care of myself because clearly, nobody else was going to. Moving in with my grandparents was a huge relief, but that didn't make things easy. They welcomed me with open arms, gave me a place to sleep and some sense of security, but beyond that, they didn't have a whole lot to give. They were both retired, living off a fixed income, and doing the best they could. I appreciated it, but I knew I had to step up. So I found a job. My first gig was at this little coffee shop downtown. Nothing fancy, just a basic after-school job, but it brought in enough to cover school supplies, clothes, and the essentials I needed to make it through high school. Trying to balance school and work was no cakewalk, though. I'd get home late, crash for a couple hours, then drag myself up at dawn to do it all over again. My grades took a slight hit, but I pushed through. I stayed on track, determined to graduate. What hurt more than anything wasn't the exhaustion or the long shifts, it was the silence. My mom never once checked in. No calls. No texts. Not even a "how are you?" It was like I vanished the moment I left her house. Every once in a while, I'd hear little bits about her and Jake through family gossip. Word was, they were doing just fine. Twins were happy and healthy. They had their suburban house, new cars, picture-perfect life. And I couldn't make sense of it. Two adults, both with steady jobs, claiming they couldn't afford 3 kids. I wasn't asking for much, I just needed the basics. Meanwhile, I was running myself ragged, working nights and weekends, trying to stay afloat. My days blurred together between shifts and homework, just trying to have a halfway normal life. I wasn't begging for handouts. I just wanted a little effort, a little love. But from the moment I stepped out of that house, it felt like they washed their hands of me. Like I was never really part of their family to begin with. The truth? It wasn't about the money. They just didn't want me around. By the time I hit senior year, college letters started rolling in. I should have been thrilled, and I was, but fear crept in quick. College was expensive, and I had no idea how I was going to make it work on my own. I needed help. So I did something I swore I wouldn't, I reached out to my mom. I remember sitting at my grandparents' kitchen table late at night, phone in hand, trying to figure out how to phrase the text. I rewrote it over and over, struggling to sound hopeful without sounding desperate. Eventually, I just sent it. Hey, I've been accepted to a few colleges. I was wondering if you could help with financial aid stuff or maybe cosign a loan. The second I hit send, I regretted it. Not because I thought asking was wrong, but because deep down, I already knew what her answer would be. Still, some dumb part of me clung to the idea that maybe, just maybe, she'd step up. Hours later, she finally replied. And when I read the message, my heart dropped. We're saving for the twins' future. We can't help. Sorry. That was it. No congratulations. No, we're proud of you. Just a flat-out rejection. I wish I could say I was surprised. But I wasn't, not really. It still hit like a gut punch, though. It wasn't just the money. It was the way she said it, like I didn't matter, like I never had. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to keep it together, but I couldn't. The tears came, and I let them. Not because I was weak, but because I was tired of pretending her absence didn't hurt. I never blamed the twins. None of this was their fault. But it felt like my mom had chosen her new family and erased me from the picture. Thankfully, someone else stepped in when I needed it most. My aunt, bless her, didn't even hesitate when I told her what happened. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'll co-sign the loans. Just focus on making it count." She didn't have to do that. She had her own kids, her own struggles, but she saw something in me. She said she always knew I'd make something of myself. And honestly, hearing her say that meant more than the help itself. Right then and there, I made myself a promise, I wasn't going to let her down. I'd bust my ass not just for me, but to prove her belief in me wasn't misplaced. My mom might have shut me out, but my aunt. She threw the door wide open. And I wasn't about to waste that chance. College was brutal. I juggled classes, campus jobs, weekend shifts, and every side gig I could find just to scrape by. I even taught myself web design and started freelancing for small businesses. The money was decent, and I needed every dime. Sleep. That became optional. But I didn't care, I had a goal, and I was going to reach it. And my mom? Still nothing. Not a call. Not a text. Total silence. Every now and then I'd stumble across her social media. There she was, all smiles, posting photos of the twins at their school plays, birthday parties, family trips to Disneyland. She looked happy. Like life was easy. Like I never existed. And those pictures. They hit harder than anything she ever said. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore, I blocked her. I had to stop putting myself through the pain of watching a life I was never part of. So, when graduation finally came around, I invited my aunt. And not only did she show up, she was right there in the front row, beaming with pride and cheering louder than anyone when they called my name. As for my mom, I didn't even bother. If she couldn't be there when I needed her most, she sure as hell didn't deserve to be there for the big win. That moment belonged to my aunt. She earned it more than anyone. If it weren't for her, I honestly don't know if I would have made it. After college, the grind really kicked in. I packed up and moved to a small city where I landed a job in my field. It didn't pay much, but it covered the bills and let me start chipping away at my student debt. Those early years were tough. I lived in this tiny, worn-down apartment filled with hand-me-down furniture and nothing but ambition. I worked crazy hours trying to prove myself, taking on anything that came my way, staying late, learning every part of the business. Little by little, it paid off. I got a promotion. Then another. And before I knew it, I was climbing that ladder. By my late 20s, things were finally looking up. I'd paid off a big chunk of my loans, upgraded to a place that didn't leak when it rained, and for the first time in my life, I had a savings account that wasn't sitting at zero. I was proud of where I'd gotten. But my relationship with my mom? Still non-existent. I didn't reach out, and she never made an effort either. Every now and then, a relative would mention she'd asked how I was doing. But it never led to anything. She had her world, and I had mine. What stung the most was finally accepting that she was never going to change. A part of me always hoped she'd pick up the phone, apologize, maybe say she messed up. But that call never came. Eventually, I stopped hoping. By the time I hit 30, I was in upper management, making more money than I ever dreamed of growing up. But I kept it low-key, no big announcements, no social media flexing. I didn't want to deal with the family drama that usually followed anything good in my life. The only person who knew was my aunt, the one who co-signed my student loans. She was proud. Every time we talked, she told me how happy she was for me. But then, at a family gathering, she mentioned my promotion to my mom. She didn't mean any harm. She's always been the peacemaker, thinking maybe that bit of good news could spark some kind of reconciliation. She had no idea the storm she was about to kick up. A few days later, someone knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I looked through the peephole, and there they were. My mom and Jake. I hadn't seen them in years, and I couldn't think of a single reason they'd be standing on my porch. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "What's going on?" I asked. Jake didn't waste time with greetings. "We need to talk," he said, pushing his way inside like he still had a place in my life. My mom followed him in without saying a word. "We heard about your promotion," Jake said, matter of fact, with this smug tone. "So, you're finally doing something with yourself. Good for you. About time." I just stared, stunned, not even a hello. No congratulations. Just straight to the attitude. "Okay," I said slowly, trying to keep my cool. That's when my mom jumped in. "The twins are getting ready for college," she said. "And, well, we've hit some financial trouble. We figured since you're doing so well now, you could help out." I don't remember my exact words, but I know I stood there, trying to wrap my head around what I was hearing. After all the years of silence, after everything they did, they show up and ask for money? "Are you serious right now?" I finally asked. "Why wouldn't we be?" Jake shot back without missing a beat. "You're making good money now, right? You don't have a family to support, no kids. You've got the cash." I could feel my blood pressure rising. "It's not about whether I can afford it," I said, trying to stay calm. "It's about the fact that neither of you did a damn thing to support me, and now you're here acting like I owe you something." My mom rolled her eyes. "Oh please," she said, throwing up her hands. "Here we go again. Playing the victim. We didn't spoil you enough, is that it? You've been holding on to this grudge for years. For what? Look at you, you turned out fine." I lost it. "I turned out fine because I worked my ass off," I snapped. "Not because of anything you did. Do you even realize how hard it was to get through college without any help? Without a cosigner? I did it without you. I got here in spite of you." Jake let out a smirk. "Oh, come on. Stop acting like your life was so tough. You've got a good job now, a nice place. Maybe you should be thanking us." "Thanking you?" I repeated, my voice shaking. "You kicked me out because I wasn't convenient anymore. You made it crystal clear I didn't matter. And now you expect me to just show up and save the day for the kids you actually cared about? Not a chance." My mom's voice went cold. "You're being selfish," she snapped. "I raised you on my own. I worked hard to give you everything you needed. And now look at you, living comfortably, doing well. All we're asking is a little help. They're your siblings. After everything I've done, you owe them." It wasn't just what she said, it was the way she said it. Like I was supposed to feel guilty for not immediately dropping everything to rescue her and the twins. "I don't owe them a damn thing," I fired back. And I sure as hell don't owe either of you. You made your decisions, I made mine. They were the ones who decided I wasn't worth their time, their money, or their space. And now they had the audacity to expect me to hit pause on my life to fix theirs. Not happening. Jake stepped in closer, his face all clenched up. You know what your problem is, he said, real smug. You've always thought you were more important than you actually are. You think you're better than everyone just because you made it without help. But here's the truth, you didn't mean anything to this family back then, and you don't mean anything now. That cut deep, but I didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing it. Then why the hell are you here? I asked, cold and flat. If I don't mean anything, what are you doing standing in my living room begging for cash? My mom snapped. We didn't want to come here, she barked. Do you think this is fun for us? But the twins deserve a future. If you weren't so damn selfish, you'd see that. But no, you're too busy playing the poor, wounded kid to care about anyone but yourself. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. You want to talk about selfish? I said. You kicked your own son out so you could make room for your real family. You looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't worth it. And now you want to talk about what the twins deserve. Maybe they do deserve a future, but they also deserve better parents. That's your problem to fix, not mine. Jake jabbed his finger at me, his voice climbing. You better watch your mouth. We're still your family, whether you like it or not. And family helps family. I stood firm. Family doesn't throw their kid out like garbage and show up years later asking for money. You're not my family anymore. You're just two strangers I used to know. My mom's face twisted with rage. Fine, she hissed. Be a selfish little brat. But don't come crawling back when your life falls apart. You think you're better than us? You're nothing. You'll always be nothing. That was it. I'd had enough. If you don't leave right now, I said, pulling out my phone, I'm calling the police. Jake scoffed. Go ahead. Call them. Let's see how it looks when a son throws his own parents out of his house. You're not my parents, I said calmly, thumb hovering over the screen. Not anymore. My mom grabbed Jake's arm and muttered something I didn't catch. Then she turned toward the door. You're going to regret this, she said. I shut the door behind them without hesitation. No, I said to the empty hallway, I'm not. And that was the moment everything finally clicked. The kid I used to be, the one who just wanted them to care, that kid was gone. I didn't owe them anything. Not my time. Not my money. Not an ounce of guilt. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me ever again. After they left, I just stood there. Phone still in hand. I wasn't angry. Not even sad anymore. Just completely drained. I'd held on to this little hope for years, that maybe one day, they'd come around, treat me like I mattered. But that night sealed it for good. That hope was gone. Dead and buried. I honestly thought I'd seen the last of them. I told them plain and simple, they weren't part of my life anymore. I figured that was the end of it. But people like them. They don't take no well. It wasn't long before the chaos started. A couple of weeks later, one of my coworkers pulled me aside looking concerned. Hey, your mom came by yesterday. I wasn't even in the office, I'd taken a sick day, but apparently, she stormed in demanding to see me. When the receptionist told her I wasn't there, she lost it. Started yelling about how I owed her, how I was ungrateful, how she'd sacrificed everything for me. Security had to escort her out. I was beyond embarrassed. The next day, I apologized to my team and made sure HR flagged her in the system so she wouldn't be allowed back. But deep down, I was shaken. I couldn't believe she had the nerve to show up at my job like that. And it didn't stop there. About a week later, I pulled into my driveway after work, and there she was. Pacing back and forth in front of my house, arms crossed, looking like she was ready to explode. The second I stepped out of the car, she came charging over, already shouting. "You can't keep ignoring me." I held up my hand, trying to keep distance between us. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk," she snapped, jabbing a finger at me like I was still a teenager. "You think you can just walk away from your responsibilities? From your family?" "What responsibilities?" I asked. "You're the parent, remember? The twins are your kids. You don't get to dump that on me just because it's convenient." That lit the fuse. She exploded, screaming that I was ungrateful, that I owed her for everything she'd ever done. "I sacrificed so much for you," she shouted. "And this is how you repay me? By abandoning your family?" I kept my voice steady. "You didn't sacrifice for me," I said. "You tossed me out like I was nothing. You chose your new family. So go back to them, and don't come here again." That sent her into a full-blown meltdown. She started screaming so loud the neighbors peeked out their windows. "He's a brat," she yelled, throwing her arms around. "He's always been a selfish little brat. He's always been the kind of guy who only looks out for himself." A few neighbors tried stepping in, telling her to calm down, but she wasn't listening. Her voice just kept climbing, more panicked and wild, until she suddenly lunged at me, screaming. I backed up, phone in my hand, already punching in 911. "After everything I've done for you," she shouted. "Stay back," I warned her. "Don't, Mom. I mean it." Her face twisted with rage as she reached out, trying to snatch the phone from me. "You're really calling the cops on your own mother," she shouted. "I raised you. I gave up everything for you. You left me," I yelled, holding the phone out of reach, trying to keep her away. "You threw me out like I didn't matter. It didn't even feel like I was looking at my mother anymore, just someone wearing her face, a stranger." She kept screaming, raving about how ungrateful I was, ranting about family loyalty, all while lunging again and again, trying to take my phone. In the chaos, I heard one of the neighbors yell, "I'm calling the police. Leave him alone." More people started stepping out of their homes, gathering on porches or inching closer, watching this insane scene unfold, my own mother attacking me in the middle of the street. Finally, someone jumped in and pulled her back just as the sirens pierced the air. She fought them off, still shouting nonsense, but it was over. The red and blue lights lit up the block. I just stood there, shaking, realizing how far she'd really gone, and how there was no way I could ever let her back into my life. The next day, I went straight to the police station. I laid it all out for the officer, the meltdown at work, her showing up at my place, the fight in front of the neighbors. The cop listened and actually seemed to care. He helped me get the ball rolling on a restraining order. When I told my grandparents what had happened, they were livid. "She's lost her damn mind," Grandpa said, shaking his head. "I don't know what's wrong with her, but you don't deserve any of this." Grandma's eyes filled with regret. "We should have done more back then," she said softly. "We thought we were helping by staying close, but we let you carry too much alone. I'm so sorry." I told her it wasn't on them. They'd done the best they could, and honestly, they were the only reason I had any kind of steady ground to stand on after my mom threw me out. But this time, they were done. "We've stood by her through everything," Grandpa said. "But this? This is it. We're cutting ties." That hit me hard, part relief, part heartache. It was a strange kind of validation. They finally saw her clearly. But it also hurt, knowing how far she'd fallen and how little she truly cared about anyone but herself. A few weeks later, the restraining order came through, and for the first time in a long while, things began to settle. I threw myself into work, into fixing up my home, and into the people who had truly stuck by me, my grandparents, some close friends, and my aunt. My aunt, though. She was everything. She didn't just show up when things got ugly, she stayed. And not once did she make me feel like I owed her anything for it. Once I finally caught my breath a few months later, I decided I wanted to do something for her. It wasn't about paying her back, it was about showing her how much she meant to me. I didn't just hand her a wad of cash. I planned it. I made sure it would cover a weekend trip for her and her family, something she always dreamed of but never gave herself permission to take because she was too busy looking after everyone else. When I handed her the envelope, she looked puzzled, then opened it, and gasped. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's for you," I said, keeping it simple. "You've always had my back. You didn't have to, but you did. You deserve something good, just for you." Her eyes filled with tears as she shook her head. "You didn't have to do this. I didn't help you to get anything in return." "I know," I told her, my throat tight. "And that's exactly why you deserve it." She pulled me into a hug, and for the first time in years, I felt what real love and support was supposed to feel like. She didn't just see me, she valued me. Meanwhile, every now and then, I'd hear bits about my mom and Jake. Their finances were a mess, and the twins were barely scraping by in college. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel anything. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. For so long, I'd carried this aching need for their approval, wishing they'd finally treat me like I mattered. But now, I saw the truth, they never would. And honestly, that was okay. I didn't need their validation anymore. I knew my own worth. And I had surrounded myself with people who saw it, too. I'd built a life I could be proud of, one rooted in real love and loyalty. Most important of all, I'd finally learned what family really means. It's not about blood. It's about the people who show up, who stay, who love you for who you are, not for what you can give them. As for my mom, I hope she finds whatever peace she's chasing. But I'm done being her answer. I'm done being her sacrifice. My life is finally mine, and I'm not looking back. After all the chaos, after the restraining order, the ambush outside my place, and my mom's total meltdown, I thought that chapter of my life was behind me. I'd closed that door, locked it, and moved forward. But then, out of nowhere, one of the twins reached out. It started with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, it's Sam. Can we talk? I'd like to get to know you. You're my brother, and I don't really know you at all." I just sat there, staring at the screen, not even sure how to react. Sam and I barely had any history. When I left that house all those years ago, he and his twin were still just little kids. And after everything my mom and Jake put me through, I never looked back, I never really had a relationship with them. At first, I wondered if this was another setup, some twisted plan cooked up by my mom to sneak her way back into my life. But the way Sam phrased that message, it felt different. More personal. Honest, even. After sitting with it for a bit, I finally replied, "What's this about?" A few minutes later, my phone rang. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the answer button. Then I picked up. "Hey," he said, and I could hear the nerves in his voice. "I know this is kind of out of nowhere, but I've been thinking about you a lot lately. I feel like I've missed out on something really important. You're my brother, and I don't know anything about you. That bothers me." I didn't say much, just listened while he kept going. "I know what Mom and Dad did to you," he said. "Back then, I didn't get it, I was a kid. But now I do. And honestly, I think it was awful. I don't blame you for walking away. I probably would have done the same. But I hate that their choices kept us from being brothers. That's not your fault, it's on them." I didn't expect that level of honesty, especially from someone who had every reason to stay silent. I cleared my throat and tried to steady my voice. "Sam, none of this is on you. You weren't the one making those decisions." "I know," he said quietly, but that doesn't make it any easier. I feel like I lost the chance to have an older brother. And now that I actually understand what happened, I want to try and fix that, if I can. I can't undo the past, but I'd really like to get to know you, if you're willing. I leaned back in my chair, unsure how to respond. For most of my life, I carried the weight of being invisible to the people who were supposed to love me. And now, here was Sam, acknowledging the truth, owning none of the blame, and asking if we could maybe start over. Why now? I asked. What made you reach out after all this time? Honestly, he said, because I don't want us to stay strangers forever. I'm not here to ask you to forgive Mom or Jake. I'm not trying to defend what they did. I just want to know my brother. That's all. There was something so sincere in the way he said it, I couldn't help but feel it hit me. Not hard, but deep. Like something shifting inside me, something I'd kept locked away for years. I've spent a long time trying to move on from all this, I said after a long pause. It's not easy for me to open that door again. I get it, he replied. I'm not expecting anything big. I just want a chance to talk. Maybe see if we can build something, anything. You're my brother, and I'd really like to know who you are. I sat there, weighing everything. The twins hadn't played a part in what happened back then. They were just kids, swept up in the chaos. They didn't make the choices that tore our family apart. And if Sam was willing to reach out like this, maybe he deserved at least a chance. Even though there was still a small voice in the back of my mind, warning me that he might have an angle, that maybe he wanted something, I decided to trust my gut. All right, I said. We can start with a conversation. I could hear the relief in his voice immediately. Thank you, he said quickly. That's all I'm asking for. Just a place to start. We ended the call not long after, but I spent the rest of the night turning it over in my head. Sam reaching out like that, completely unprompted, was something I never saw coming. And it stirred up a mix of emotions I didn't know how to handle. I'd spent so long lumping the twins in with the rest of the family, assuming they were part of the problem. But the truth is, they were victims too, just like I was. They didn't choose this life any more than I did. I'm still cautious. I've built something solid for myself. A life I worked hard for. And I'm not eager to open the door to old pain. But at the same time, Sam didn't try to guilt me. He didn't make excuses. He just wanted to get to know his brother. And for the first time, I'm starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could have a real connection with someone from that side of the family. It's just a small step. But honestly, it feels like progress.